Welcome to Fabula Celtica, a Celtic... Oh, I don't need to do that part. That's pre-recorded.
I'm so sorry.
I'm so glad. So many bloopers already.
Oh my
God.
Sorry, that was fantastic. Because you kind of looked up when you started with the welcome to Fabula Celtica. You kind of already had like a sad, dead look behind you, right? And then it lit up, and you're like, I don't have to do that bit. Actually, that's totally fine.
Okay.
Sorry.
Let me try this again.
Sad and dead was a bit much on its own.
All right. Season 1. Shut up, Saoirse.
Stand over here.
Welcome to Fabula Celtica, a Celtic Studies podcast with Tyler Baxter.
And Saoirse Gunavon.
Season 1, Ancient Ireland, Episode 14, Who's Your Daddy?
Who's your daddy?
Saoirse, it's been too long since we last had a chance to record.
It's been way too long. It actually has. We've both been quite busy.
We sure have been, and you've been taken ill, and then Kevin was taken ill, so
Yes.
we couldn't use his lovely at-home studio.
And we were both at a conference.
Yes.
Yes.
Let's actually briefly, because this is a Celtic Studies podcast, I know we're talking about medieval Ireland, but we might as well talk about the conference, and you've also been to Dias, so we'll have to tell the listeners about that. So let's go in chronological order, I guess. Mm-hmm. So the conference, we talked about this in, I think, our last episode, actually. Mm-hmm. We talked about how we had met at the Celtic Students Conference for 2024 in Brest. And we once again attended the Celtic Students Conference this year, this time in Aberystwyth in Wales.
Oh, yeah. And we went as friends, and we had dinner, and we had Jamaican food. Was it Jamaican food? Yeah, it was Jamaican food, which had vegetarian options for Tyler.
Yes.
And we both spoke.
At the conference.
Conference.
Yeah, not just in
general. We can't stop that. But I think both went well.
Yes. I was really happy with mine. I felt like yours went well. I was in the audience for that one,
Yeah. I unfortunately was not in the audience for Tyler's.
Yeah, mine was, of course, same thing as last year.
Same thing as last year.
When people are, because they have to figure out getting home and that sort of stuff.
No, I think they're saving best for last.
But that's how I tried to view it. And I to be fair, I felt like I had a pretty good sized audience. The room wasn't full, but none of the rooms were. Well, there were some rooms that were full at certain points, but the room wasn't full. But there were probably a good 20 people in there, which I was happy.
Which is good.
With.
There was only about.
I think there were about 100 in total at the conference.
Jesus, that's big, isn't it?
Yeah, but some, were there for only some of the days, and there were 3 rooms running most of the time, so people were split 3 ways.
Yeah,
and,
that's true.
Some would come for certain sessions,
and some would kind of leave.
Yeah. And I think in Brest it was 80, so it was a little bit bigger this year.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was a huge variety of papers.
There was, actually. That was something I was really kind of taken aback by, because I have a very closed-minded approach to Celtic studies where it's just early medieval history and nothing else. Yeah. And that is wrong. That is silly and wrong and closed-minded of me. It's anything in a Celtic language, so Welsh, Scots, Gaelic or Gaeilge, Manx or Breton. Yes, thank you. I was going to call it Brittany. That's the place. Yeah.
Welsh. Did we say Welsh?
We said Welsh. Welsh
Cornish.
Oh,
that's what we're missing. Yeah.
Is there one more?
I think we got everything.
Yeah, so they're all accepted, all those papers. Anything to do with language conservation or culture, folklore is a big one. Tyler gave a very interesting paper about talking babies as well, if you want to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I may just find a chance to basically re-record my conference talk as a podcast, kind of mini episode or something. They're only about 20-minute papers. But yeah, it was fun because it was mostly based around comparative medieval Irish literature, but it brought in one Welsh tale, which is a tale I had worked on for my master's thesis. And it brought in some linguistics to support the comparative analysis. It brought in some modern folklore. There was a bit of modern Irish literature I wanted to bring in, but I didn't have time to put it into my conference talk. It may go into my conference paper if I find that I have the time to write it.
Although I found because they're doing a proceedings is after you do a paper. You give a paper, you give them basically the script.
Yeah.
But I found it's only 5,000 words, is it?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's actually going to be longer than your talk usually, because for 20 minutes of talking, that's about 3,000 words scripted. And it is, I think, a 5,000 to 6,000 word paper that they're looking for. Yeah. So you are kind of expanding a bit.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
Yeah, which is, I mean, that lets you have the room to really contextualize and make sure you've really given your sources and all of that. So it makes sense. And I can probably slip in my modern Irish literature reference too.
Yes!
But this is all assuming I have time to get it written before September 5th.
Yes.
Or September 15th? 5th.
5th,
yeah.
Yeah, I know, because I checked yesterday. Yeah. So I was like, oh, I need to do that.
Yeah. I have started, but yeah, we'll see if it actually happens.
Yeah, I feel that, brother.
Because I've also got another conference paper that I need to script. I'm not going to do the actual conference publication paper. I'm just going to do the script and the talk.
And this is in Spain?
It's based in Spain. I'm going to do it virtually. That's in early November. So I still have a while.
Okay.
I kept thinking, I only have 2 months left, forgetting that October existed. So I actually have time.
This paper going to be about?
The conference paper, so this actually ties in well with what you were saying about it doesn't have to be medieval stuff. It's related to my PhD research, which is looking at modern and specifically revival era, so late 19th to early 20th century adaptations of the Ulster cycle tales. And in particular, I strategically looked for what is a very tiny subset of the Ulster cycle tales that I could look for adaptations of so that I can fit it within a short conference talk. And what I decided to go with are the couple of medieval tales that involve the ghosts of characters from the Ulster cycle.
Ooh!
Yeah, so there's really only 2 of these, or 3 depending on how you want to quantify one of them, but they're essentially a story that's usually referred to as the Finding of the Táin, which is basically this story that says that the Táin Bolcúine, the main central tale of the Ulster cycle, was forgotten by the poets of Ireland, and they recovered the tale by speaking to the grave of Fergus Mac Roich, who is a central character of the Táin itself.
He's a tough guy.
Yeah.
He's a tough guy.
And it's also a very virile man.
Yeah. He's also a horny guy.
Yes. And apparently only he can satisfy certain women.
Oh, yeah.
There's that story, the Finding of the Táin, and then there's the Phantom Chariot of Cuchullin, which is about St. Patrick summoning Cuchullin's spirit to help convince the King of Tara to convert to Christianity. Basically, Cuchullin's spirit tells the king, yeah, in spite of being like the best warrior in all of Ireland ever, I tried fighting the devil in hell and I didn't stand a chance. He beat me with like one finger. Oh. And so basically implying that it's now the era of Christianity and Christian powers trump all the pre-Christian ones.
Fucked.
Yeah. So these 2 stories, the Phantom Chariot of Cuchullin and the Finding of the Táin, I basically took these as here's my medieval examples. And then I went and I found 3 stories from the revival period that also deal with ghosts of characters from the Táin or from the Ulster cycle. Mm-hmm. And one of them is an adaptation of the Finding of the Táin story.
It's Charles Dickens.
I mean, it's about that period. It's a little later. But,
it goes to Christmas past.
No, it is about that period, because this is like 1860s. It's like a pretty early one. It's a little bit earlier, kind of like the revival proper. And then the other 2 are more original tales, but bring in Ulster cycle characters and refer to other Ulster cycle tales. I'm not going to say more than that about my paper at this point, but that's what I'm working with. And basically the idea is just to talk about how medieval stories are being adapted and the research, which it'll be harder to get this into a 15-minute talk, so I might just not do it. But the reason that a lot of the medieval stories get retold as they do during the revival period, which is when these stories really become popularized, and it's where we get a lot of our most readily available translations and such today because they're now in public domain. The changes that are made are very much influenced by the modern concerns of the people who were rewriting these stories. And during the revival, you've got lots of shit going down in Ireland politically and culturally, because we're talking about the period that leads up into and encompasses the movement for independence, the Irish Civil War, the establishment of the Irish Free State, the partition of the island between North and South. So there's a lot that's going on there. With all that being said, I've got that script to prepare. I've got moving to Scotland to deal with. I've got starting my PhD to deal with. I've got to try to finish this conference paper to submit to the proceedings for the Celtic Students Conference. But the conference itself was good crack. What I wanted to briefly ask you about, since we both mentioned DIAS, do you want to tell the listeners what DIAS is and what you did there?
DIAS is sick. So DIAS is the Dublin Institute of Advanced Studies. And every 4 years they hold like early medieval or a medieval kind of linguistic course. So your options are Middle Welsh, reading Old Irish legal tracts, and High Middle Irish. So you go through linguistics. Sometimes you're all, like the whole class is translating. And sometimes you're going very slowly over the grammatical stuff. We then had talks from David Stifter, he's huge. He's like big guy. He does a lot of Proto-Indo-European stuff. He does a lot of linguistic stuff. I don't know how the fuck he does it, if I'm being honest. Like, he's finding languages that we've never seen before and translating them. Then, like, we met Fergus Kelly.
Oh, yes.
We talked about hagiographies. So it was like the morning from 9:30 until 1 linguistics, and then 2:30 until 5 would be. First week it was linguistics because it was David Stifter, and then the rest of the time it was kind of more historical stuff. So
was the linguistics like mostly, was it any particular type of linguistics? Was it focusing just on Irish, or
the ones with David Stifter, it was just generally like continental Celtic.
Okay.
Which was so it was Gaulish, it was Lepontic.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it was sick. I barely understood it because I'm not a linguist. I really struggle with languages, but it was so cool. It was really interesting. Yeah. Like, we were looking at there's an inscription in Lepontic from like the 2nd century or the year 2 AD, and it's inscribed on like a spindle, and it says, "Pretty girl, get me beer."
Oh my god,
it's fantastic.
That's
isn't it?
So good.
I'm getting it printed off and I'm hanging it in the pub. But yes, it's a great way to meet people, especially like in this field where we're all very spread out across all the continents. Really highly recommend it to anyone going. Genuinely made friends for life there.
Yeah, and I think they run it every
4 years.
Yeah. I've missed my last 2 chances to go because of various things getting in the way. But
fucking
that's okay.
Weddings, am I sorry?
Yeah. Shout out Taryn and Matt. You're a beautiful couple.
You're a beautiful couple. Thank you for letting Tyler celebrate your love.
Long story short, we've both been busy enough. And that's on top of, just
living.
Yeah. Being an adult. Fun times. So let's go ahead and dig into the meat of the episode then.
Who is Yo Daddy?
There is, in fact, a dual meaning to our episode title, as we'll see today. Our episode is actually, in spite of the title, about women and children in early medieval Irish society. So why, Saoirse, would we be calling the episode Who's Your Daddy?
Well, one would be the patronymical meaning of your father, and daddy being a nickname, and the other one is a more horny colloquial term for a man you like to ride. So when we say who's your daddy, it actually is between who's your father and who's the man you're riding. So I'd say, I don't know why I put on a Kerry voice for this.
It's perfect. It's hitting all the right notes.
I feel like Daniel O'Donnell, but
yeah,
but with no northern accent. Actually, sorry, he's from Donegal, isn't it? It doesn't matter. Sorry,
doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
It works.
It works.
It's
fine.
And it all ties into the idea that both women and children are legal dependents on a male superior.
Can I derail? I'm such a derailer. I'm so sorry.
Please.
Anyway, this is something that actually got me into Celtic studies. And it's very, very, very common misconception that early medieval Ireland was matriarchal, and that every woman was seen as divine and had a special place in society. Anyone who is saying that to you is trying to fucking sell you something. Don't fucking believe it. It's actually why I got into Celtic studies. I will put my hands up. I was deep in Wicca talk and deep in the Wicca Pinterest. And I was like, yes, my Celtic astronomy is the yew tree. Shut up. No. But I would love if Ireland was matriarchal. There is a theory that the native Irish, before the Gaels, like before us Irish, but like there was
prehistoric
times,
like Bronze Age.
Yeah.
I think it's, because Iron Age is kind of when Ireland becomes quote unquote Celtic.
Like Bronze Age, that they may have been, and that's why Conqueror MacNessa is Conqueror MacNessa, not McFather. But
McFather. You're right. I don't remember his name either. It's probably Fiachna.
I don't know, something something daddy.
It's something starting with an F. I know that.
But it's not matriarchal. So if you're looking for that, I'm sorry, but we only deal with mostly facts. So yeah. So
facts as far as we can ascertain from the historical sources, and also literature, of course.
Woo.
Also literature. So patriarchy, good stuff. Let's go ahead and look at a story about patriarchy and mistreatment of a supernatural woman and how that doesn't work out so well.
There was a man who had a load of sons. He was a farmer or a petty lord. It's kind of
either like a well-to-do farmer.
He's well-to-do. He's and his wife dies, and he is just stricken with grief, and he is like barely doing anything. His sons are trying to rouse him. It's not really working. And one day, a random woman just walks in, and she just starts cooking and cleaning, and he's like, who are you? And she's like, don't fucking worry about it. And he's just like, oh, okay. And then eventually, as things do, they start writing. They have at this kind of time period, I prefer the word union to marriage, but that's just a personal thing. We'll talk about that later. They enter into a union, and she becomes pregnant. And while she's heavily pregnant, Chruncu, the fella, and his sons, they all get summoned up to Ulster, where King Conchobar is holding this big tournament, and basically it's a giant piss up, and they all get together, and she says to him before they leave, don't tell anyone about me, and don't tell anyone I'm pregnant. I don't want people to know. It will be shameful. And he's a bit like, weird, but okay. And he does exactly what most men do when their wives tell them not to do something, and he does the opposite. He gets really drunk one night, and they all saw like the king's horses running that day, and they're super fast, and everyone's like, yeah, go conquer his horses, woo. And your man's sitting there mouthy, and he's like, my wife could outrun them. And everyone's like, fuck, you have a wife? What are you talking about? And he's like, yeah, no. And Conchobar is not happy with this, and he's like, bring her over. And she's like, fuck. So they show up, and they're like, get over to the tournament. She's like, fuck, I really don't want to. And they're like, we're going to kill your husband otherwise. And she's like, fuck, okay, come on. And then she's pleading with Conchobar. She's like, I'm in labour. Wait for a week after the kids are giving birth. And he's like, nah. And she's like, okay, can I at least give birth and then run? I'll run straight after. And he's like, no. So he races them. And while they're racing, she gives birth while running to twins, which is why the place is called Evan Macha, the twins of Macha. And she stands up after winning, by the way, and she looks at all the men of Ulster that gathered to watch this, and she goes, "You all watched me give birth while racing stallions. You will all feel the pains of childbirth as punishment." Turns out she's the goddess Macha. Although not goddess, but like she's the otherworldly figure. She's this immortal figure, Macha, which is also a class name. Yes. And that's actually one of the main... This story is a pre-scale, or a pre-story to the Táin.
A
Rev scale. Oh, it's also very important that it's only men. So children and women don't feel this. But I think it's like something like 6 weeks a year.
I think it's supposed to be every time there's some sort of crisis.
Oh, every time there's a crisis. Or every time that they need to have, you know, like...
Maybe a couple of different, like, parallel traditions.
Yeah, it's the manuscripts.
Yeah.
They all say different things. But every time that they need to have their shit together, like Macha did racing the horses, they're going to feel like they're in the depths of labour. And that is their punishment. And I think that's my favorite story ever. I was proper like, oh my god, she's a bad bitch, you can't kill her. I'd be the IGGY. Yeah, let's fucking go.
Yeah. And there's a lot that's in this story. Also, thank you for telling that. I think you gave it a more evocative performance than I would have, because you're invested in this one.
I'm so invested. I love Macha.
Which is great. Yeah, this is one of two conflicting stories, I'd say, that explain this magical debility that afflicts the Ulstermen during most of the Táin Bó Cúailnge, the cattle raid of Cooley, the main story of the Ulster cycle. In the Táin itself, it never really explains where this curse comes from, where this affliction comes from, but this story is perhaps even written after the Táin to explain where it comes from. And there's one other very different story where Fithelm of the Brúna Boina, she's another supernatural woman, and she basically meets Cuchullin when he's down at the Boyne Valley for some reason. I think he's trying to get to fish out of the river or something. And the Lord of Newgrange of the Brew, Elkvara, comes out, and in this tale his wife is something different than in the Wound of Aiding. Fithelm, I think. She comes out and sees Cuchullin and her husband fighting, and then she invokes this prophecy that, I don't know if because she's pissed off about this whole thing or what, invokes this prophecy that she will come naked before the Ulstermen to debilitate them in their hour of need.
What's up with Ulstermen getting freaked out by naked women?
We've talked about this. We talked about this in our last episode at some point. Yeah.
Cuchullin sees a load of tits and he's like, fuck, no.
So it just keeps coming up. So that's a competing story, but this one that you've just relayed to us about Macha is the much more well-known story. Yeah. It shows another conflict with the story we covered earlier in the podcast series about a different Macha and a different rationale for the name of Evan Macha not being the twins of Macha, but being from the brooch at the neck of Macha, this compound of Ao and Mwyn coming together to create Evan. So brooch, neck, and then again a character called Macha. But she was also a pretty badass woman. So
she's a baddie.
Yeah.
She's a fucking baddie.
It's also a pretty good story. But again, this shows how the tradition can vary quite a bit because, again, we've got stories from all across time, across all different parts of Ireland in many different manuscripts. So, of course, there's going to be some overlaps and some conflicting stuff that happens over that course of time.
And it's also, I think it's very important to remember in a time period like this, like it kind of is no national idea.
Yeah.
Just there's no kind of national identity and therefore no national story making. So the stories you get, let's say in Lismore about Dublin, about like the origin of Dublin, will be very different from the monastery of Elphin and Roscommon about the origin of Dublin. Like they're very different, and it's different, and storytelling is like a very strong tradition.
Yes.
And there's a lot of liberties when it comes to story taking.
And also though there are definitely projects of syncretism where monks try to make these things come together and try to smooth out the contradictions, there are also many, many instances where we get different explanations for the same, say, place name. For instance, in the Denhenicus, this is very common, where we get 2, 3, 4 different poems that all explain this is how this place came to be, or this is how this place came to get its name, and all are allowed to exist next to each other without them saying, oh, these conflict with each other, how terrible.
Yeah, no, I think it's a very, very good thing.
Yes.
Like, it kind of just shows the kind of diversity in the, and there's also, there's no such thing as a better version.
Yes.
That's also an incredibly important thing to have. Like, you've a load of
there might be a more popular version.
Yeah, 100%. But that doesn't make it inherently better.
Yeah. Yes, there's definitely, it's not seen really as a problem when this kind of thing happens.
We're kind of like, slay. Oh, that's so fun. Why you do that? Cool.
Something that I want to bring up about the story of Macha is this event that Croncha, her husband, goes to. The Irish word for it is an oinach, which is an assembly, usually how it might be translated, or a festival almost. We've also talked previously about, in a previous episode, a little bit about the Feis Tevra, the festival or feast of Tara. And it's a very similar kind of event where there are festivities that are happening. So, for example, the king's horses are racing. And there would probably be sport type competitions.
Let's throw a pregnant woman in there, see what happens.
Yeah. Maybe throw pregnant women
mid-labor
instead of stones and see who can throw a pregnant woman the farthest.
Do you know that? Sorry, this actually does connect in with femininity.
Okay.
There was a competition in, I think it's the wooing of Ever.
Yeah.
With Cuchullin, that all the women of Ulster were trying to see whose piss could melt the most snow.
Oh, yes, I know what you're talking about. I don't
remember
if that's the text, but yes.
No, I do think it's...
I think it might be.
And it's...
Who could piss the furthest into the snow?
Yeah, and who could melt the most snow with their because it was supposed to be like the most feminine thing you could do. And I'm just like, fuck yeah, let's bring it back. Let's stop climate change just so it can start snowing again in Ireland.
Oh, not to spoil anything, Saoirse, but this ties in well, I think, with one of the entertainers we'll talk about in our next episode.
Yes! They just did the most heinous thing.
Yeah. Oh, no, I think the medieval Irish were very into toilet humor.
Oh my god, they were so into toilet humor, and I'm so still here for it.
You're just continuing a proud tradition.
I'm just out here pissing in the streets. Like, this is my ancestors living through me.
Only on the rare occasions it snows, though.
Yeah, no, this is for you, Nana. This is for you.
So at the Oinach, besides the pissing competitions, there would also be more official business that was dealt with. So this was the opportunity to declare your taxes, basically.
Yeah.
And so part of what might be going on, in addition to just being boastful, what Croncha may be doing when he is deciding to reveal that he has a wife against her explicit wishes, is he also might be essentially declaring this is part of my wealth, which sounds bad, but as we're going to see...
but it's...
But she has been a major contributing factor to the well-being of his economic situation in his household. Like, she's been a very good housewife in terms of keeping things running well and all of that.
She's a body.
Yeah. So like, in this way, he is adding to his declaration of wealth, which is something that he is obligated to do for his king.
Oh, I never thought about the legal implications.
Yeah, so I think that may be part of it as well. I mean, we definitely get the, like, ill-advised boast to a king happening in more than one text.
And it was public as well.
Yes, it's public, which is really important, really big. If it's witnessed, then it's true.
It's so bad. To be unseen.
For example, towards the end of the Welsh tale, Hannes Taliesin, which I'll always come back to because
why the fuck not?
In the second half of the tale, Elfin, who is the adoptive father of the main character Taliesin, he is invited to the court of a king, and there he makes not one but 3 ill-advised boasts. The last of which is that he has faster horses than the king's horses.
Oh, why do they keep coming back to this?
So there is a similar kind of situation where he is imprisoned until his boast can be proved, and Taliesin, his adoptive son, has to come and save the day.
Okay. Fucking idiots.
Yeah. So that is something that you see quite a bit. There's also quite a few tales that associate women with horses, which is interesting, but we don't have time to get into that right now. So in addition to Mocha, we have a lot of legendary women characters, which I think shows how women were not forgotten about in the literature and storytelling. Like, they have really central roles in a lot of these tales. So besides Mocha, we have characters like Aideen and the Wooing of Aideen, which is a really interesting story. We have Chulainn and the Dinhenicus, which actually I think we brought her up in our episode on poetry.
I think we did, yeah. I love her.
Along with Bowen, another sort of river goddess who appears in the Wooing of Aideen, actually, but has a very similar story to Shannon's for part of her story. We have, of course, Bridget, or St. Bridget. We have the Morrigan. We have, for instance, of course, Ever, or Emer in modern Irish, Cuchullin's wife, who's depicted as this very clever woman. Similarly, if you remember Mongan from the previous episode, his wife is Dovlacha, and she's also kind of this very clever woman. I like her character a lot.
You have Sheen, the fake sovereignty goddess who avenges her family.
Yes, and what's really interesting about Sheen in the main story that she appears in, the Aviv Merchatig Mech Erka, the violent death of Mercatach, son of Erka, Sheen is the character who instigates the most of the action in that story.
So she does.
The story really can't happen without her. We also have texts like the Bonhenicus, which is a 12th century genealogical text that looks at women rather than at men, which is very unusual. And there are definitely fictional characters in that list in addition to real ones.
Absolutely. But
in the law texts, in the corpus, there's an anecdote that describes a character, Medivh of the Ullid, so Medivh of Ulster, not Queen Medivh of Connacht, the one that everyone knows. This Medivh of Ulster is described as a Banvruga, or a woman hospitaller. A Bruga, or a hospitaller, is the highest farming class. We'll talk about it in our farming episode in 2 episodes' time. Essentially, they can measure their wealth in hundreds of cattle. This would be a very, very prosperous woman. In the Tonbal Cunha, Medivh of Connacht is a really central character. She's essentially the primary antagonist. She also drives a lot of the action, much like Sheen, in that the Táin wouldn't have happened without Medivh making some bad choices that she continues to make throughout the entire tale.
Bitch. And I hate her.
I kind of have a love-hate relationship with her.
Do you know what? I hate people that love her, if that makes any sense.
That's fair.
We'll get into that later.
Yeah. That's how I feel about most of the Ulster cycle characters, actually. Are like, I love you, but I don't love you.
It's like, I love you, you fucking suck, though. People that are like obsessed with you, I think suck.
I love your flaws, actually. They make you interesting, even though they're terrible, horrible things. In, of course, Longus Mac Nishlin, or the exile of the sons of Ishla, we have the story of Deirdre, who, even though this is a tragedy, and spoiler alert, but spoiler, centuries later, she dies at the end. She commits suicide.
Can I say, Deirdre also kind of fucking sucks?
She does. Well, I think the story sucks. Because it's just so dreary.
She's just off. It's the same thing with Grania. I know you're going to get to Grania in a second.
I like Grania better.
I prefer Grania to Deirdre.
Yeah.
Because Deirdre is basically just like, you fucking suck, man. If you don't marry me, I'm going to embarrass you in front of everybody. And then he's like, oh, now I have to marry you. And she's
I feel like she has a little bit of an excuse for her sheltered upbringing. But
yeah, and she's being raised as like a sex slave to like the king or whatever. But like...
Once again, the point I want to make on this is that she really defies masculine authority.
Oh, she does.
Which is very interesting, and also, again, absolutely central to there being a plot at all.
Can I add one?
Yes, please.
There's a poem called the Cailleach Beara.
Yes.
And it's centered in the voice of a woman called Bui, which in modern day means yellow, and I just think that's so sweet. Yes,
but we actually talked about her. You talked about her in our previous episode.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, so see last episode.
But she's also fabulous because she's an elderly woman.
Yeah.
And she's still putting value on herself.
Yes.
Do you know? Because I feel like a lot of the time in the patriarchy system, even like especially today, it's like the older you get, the kind of the less useful you are. But she's like, yeah, okay, I'm not like fucking any kings anymore, but like I'm still here.
Yeah.
And she's still making a powerful impact. So that's
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think also, given her name means tall, crooked, Leverham in the Ulster cycle is an older woman.
She describes herself as having like saggy, brittle arms.
Okay, yeah.
So,
she's like, I'm
she's
pretty sure she's older.
Old as fuck, yeah.
We also talked about her in the last episode, and she's also given a lot of respect, though more out of fear, I think,
yeah,
than
I think
anything else.
I think they're more freaked out more than anything.
Yeah, we just mentioned Grania, particularly from the pursuit of Diarmid and Grania from the Fenian cycle of tales. There was a lovely staging of Lady Augusta Gregory's play based on the story of Diarmid and Grania in the Abbey Theatre last October,
I missed that.
I went to it. It was really enjoyable. And it was the first time it had ever been staged in the Abbey.
Yeah.
It was written like in 1912 or something.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah.
That's cool. Hold on.
Yeah.
I'm gonna grab my phone.
And then in Shergliga Cuchullin, the sick lying or the wasting sickness of Cuchullin, there's a very aggressive role played by some otherworld women that I really enjoy because Cuchullin kind of gets his just desserts towards the beginning of the story for once.
About fucking time.
Yeah, he gets beat with a bunch of he gets beat a bunch of times by horsewhips wielded by these otherworld women, and then ends up laid up in bed for a year recovering. Yeah. Long story short, there are lots of stories where women are really, really central. So, though a lot of this particular episode is probably going to be a little depressing for those feminists who are listening, which is hopefully all of you, there is at least respect for women in legendary sources.
It's an unfortunate and very uncomfortable reality to come to, especially as, you know, people that think other people should deserve, you know, basic respect. But it isn't doing it any justice by ignoring it.
Yeah.
And actually ignoring it is maybe the most disrespectful thing you could do.
Yes.
If we go around and we pretend that Celtic Ireland was a great matriarchy and it was fantastic, you are essentially control alt deleting millennia of suffering. And it wasn't entirely suffering. Like, people got on with their lives, people were happy, people lived, people were respected, but legally probably not as much as we'd like. But if you just ignore it, then you kind of fucking suck and you're a bad historian. So cop the fuck on, okay? Do your work. It was shit. Whatever. Get a cup of tea. You're fine. Fine.
Yep.
There you are.
I think this particular quote from the Dira Law Tract really sums up the situation for women in early medieval Ireland. Quote, "Her father has charge of her when she is a girl, her husband when she is a wife, her sons when she is a widowed woman with children, her kin when she is a woman of the kin, that is, with no other guardian, the church when she is a woman of the church, that is, a nun. She is not capable of sale or purchase or contract or transaction without the authorization of one of her superiors." End quote.
But that's also just the authorization of contracts, similar to a lot of men, isn't it? Think about it.
Well, surely, as we'll talk about in our next episode, all the dependent classes can't make contracts on their own in general. There might be rare exceptions for very specific things. And as we'll see, there are exceptions for women as well in very particular situations. But basically, women are one of the dependent classes of Ireland, unlike the men who are placed into that category based on their particular profession. Women by virtue of their sex or gender.
Boobs.
Yeah, by virtue of their boobs and their lack of a dick, you know.
Well, you could always just strap it. Sorry. No.
Wasn't there the abbot of... Who was
Germana,
the guy?
Abbot of Germana. Yeah.
That
guy's... I fucking love that story. That story is class.
Yeah, there's a fun sex change story for you guys.
Yeah. Have we talked about that?
We have not talked about that.
Will we?
If we have time and if you remind us at the end, we can talk about it. Otherwise,
read it for yourself.
Another quote that can put us in the right mindset for this is one of the triads. 3 steadinesses of a woman, a steady tongue, a steady virtue, and a steady housewifery.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in other words, we love a woman in early medieval Ireland if they hold their tongue, if they stay virtuous, or in other words, either chaste or monogamous, and if they're a good housewife.
Yeah.
And they don't slack off on that.
Close your mouth, close your legs, do your work.
Yep. Pretty much.
Yeah.
We also get a good example of this, though there are some much more fun moments in the wooing of Ever, or Emer. In this tale, the men of Conchover's court decides that Cuchullin, the main character of the Ulster cycle, needs a wife because A, they're worried that all the women want to sleep with him.
Yes, they do.
In spite of being a teenage twink with weird fingers and eyes.
Yeah, weird fingers, weird eyes, weird
and
hair.
Who hulks out.
Hulks out, is extremely violent, is not that nice, doesn't really actually have any skills.
Except for fighting. Can't
grow a beard, has no body hair. He's also has a really weird relationship with his charioteer. What was his name again?
I ship him. Loig.
Loig, yeah. No, but those guys, I don't know.
Well,
and he'll also kill your dog.
Oh, yeah. Well, the first dog, at least, was a matter of self-defense, arguably.
Or so they say. Okay? We don't know. This guy could have just killed a dog.
Yeah, either he didn't know his own strength, which is one way you could read it, or he knew his own strength and was just a really destructive child.
He was just a dickhead. Sorry.
He's a dickhead throughout.
Yeah. Nothing will make me love you, Cuchullin, but nothing will make me hate you either.
So, regardless, leaving aside the question of taste, they're worried that all the women of Ulster want to sleep with him, and he's also prophesized to die young, and they want him to have an heir, probably to inherit his really good warrior genes, and maybe his supposedly attractive,
19
appearance.
pupils.
Yeah.
7 different hair colors.
That was only 3 different hair colors, but,
growing limbs.
Yeah, it's fine.
And having one eye that falls out.
That's their justification. It is what it is. One eye that falls out, one eye that gets sucked into his head. It's fine.
Anyway, they want Cuchullin to bang.
Yeah. And they basically go through a big list of different eligible bachelorettes. And he's like, nope, the only person I am going to be satisfied with is Ever. And this is because of the following reason. Quote, she was the one maiden whom he deigned to address and woo of the maidens of Erin, for she had the 6 gifts, the gift of beauty, the gift of voice, the gift of sweet speech, the gift of needlework, the gift of wisdom, the gift of chastity. Cuchullin said that no maiden should go with him but she who was his equal in age and shape and race and skill and deftness, and that none was a fitting wife for him unless such were she.
They both kind of sound like dry shites. To be honest. You have a fucking list. Who are you? I have a list. You need to check all the boxes or I'm not even going to look at you. Fuck off.
Boy, did the medieval Irish love their lists.
They did love lists.
They did love
But that wasn't even in a 3.
It wasn't. It was a 6.
It was a 6?
It was a double 3.
Yeah, okay.
It just reminds me of that triad from earlier of... Yeah, okay, super feminine.
Yeah.
This, I should also say, is Kuno Meyer's translation, page 71 of his version, which you should be able to find freely online because it's out of public domain. It's in public domain.
Woo!
This just gives an idea of what was idealized in women and what people were looking for. So... from that unfortunate starting point, let's look in the legal capacity of women, because as we get into the weeds, things get a little bit more interesting.
Yes, they do.
While much of it is still bad news for early Irish women,
yes, it is.
There are a handful of bits and pieces where you're like, okay,
that's okay.
they threw them a bone there. Circumstances where women's evidence is valid in legal situations. There are some. there is, for example, the law of female entry, which is on the rare cases, which we'll come to, where a woman has her own land that she is legally entitled to. If someone trespasses, essentially, she can prosecute them.
Yeah.
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 So that rare case.
That
covered.
one in 400 case.
Yeah.
You're fine.
Yeah, all set. This one I think is pretty good. A nun's word being accepted against a male cleric.
I do like that.
Yes.
I really like that.
Yes.
Because
especially, like, you can assume that most of the time that something like that's going to come up is probably in cases of sexual assault.
Yeah, because, abuses of power. But that, I was like, cool.
Yes.
That's nice.
Yeah. One thing I think the laws do a fairly good job with is dealing with cases of sexual assault.
It's surprising because I think for us, because like we specialize in medieval, or not you anymore, but you used to. You're a traitor.
I've got a foot in both camps.
Yeah, you have a foot in both camps, but I feel like a lot of people that don't study it as a discipline, like their kind of only exposure to it is stuff like Game of Thrones or like dramatized series where someone gets raped. It's like, shit. And like I remember like sitting, because my dad, he's a big fan of like Game of Thrones, Lord of the Rings, and there's one fucking series or one film out on Netflix, and it has your one whose name I can't remember, but it's all centered around a rape case, and she has to marry her rapist.
Oh.
And and it's a high medieval kind of thing, or she marries someone else, but then the rapist like gets first dibs on her or something.
Oh, I see.
And my dad was like, no, this is just how it was. And it was like, no, trust me, I specialize in this. That's not how it was. It was, while it wasn't great for women, but like there were certain things, especially when it came to sexual assault, that are actually arguably more pliable and more savory than where they are in certain places today. Do you know? So in fairness, you couldn't really just go around raping people.
Yeah.
So if you think, early midnight rape central, you'd only be half right.
Yes.
So yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Because there are cases as well.
Yes, and we'll get a little bit
that.
more into this when we get into the unions and also children implications. Similar to that, well, not really similar, but just as far as it relates to sex.
I actually saw you as you say similar to that. You went, oh no. You were like,
I regretted my words. Yeah. Women witnesses for sexual matters, especially consummation of marriage, that is one place where women's evidence can be valid. You'll see where that's important as we get into the types of union as well as the reasons that people can divorce.
Yeah.
Women who accompany another woman on sick maintenance, and we'll, I think, probably talk about this a bit in the next episode when we talk about physicians, but very briefly, sick maintenance is basically if you cause injury to someone to the point where they're going to need to be in bed for a while, it's on you to make sure that they get the care that they need for the duration that they're going to be healing, including getting fed, having a place to lay,
sleep.
All that. Yeah. I think the idea here with a woman accompanying someone on sick maintenance is that
it's probably safety.
I think it's partly safety. I think it's also partly the idea that a woman is going to know a woman's body and ills better than a man will.
Maybe, yeah. That would make sense.
Because they're not going to usually be sending a trained physician on sick maintenance. It's going to be people who are just doing upkeep. There will be, probably an initial visit to a physician, but the physician's not going to be there all the time. So you're going to have some sort of, if you're a woman on sick maintenance, you're going to have a woman companion with you who can then speak to the ongoing nature of your recovery and your illness and your issues. And you're probably not going to have a male witness because that would be, a risk. The next one on the list is a woman the last one on the list actually, is a woman in childbirth and in danger of death on account of being in childbirth.
Oh.
Now, this is interesting because it ties back to our story of Macha.
Yeah.
Definitely, I'd say, being forced to run a race against the king's horses while you're in labor is good reason to say you might be in danger of dying during your childbirth.
Yeah.
Not to mention it's early Middle Ages and childbirth is hazardous at best anyways.
Yeah, I think it's like the biggest mortality rate for women.
Right.
Is childbirth.
And sure, Macha may be a supernatural woman, an otherworld woman, but they don't need to know that. There's actually another law that talks about a pregnant woman's oath as one of the only oaths that can't be oversworn. So this is really showing us that in that story, Conchobar, the king who subjugates her to this and forces her to do this race when she is in this situation, is really in the wrong.
Yeah.
He's not just in the wrong morally, he's in the wrong legally.
I wonder why that is. Do you think, because there was a bit of like an obsession with in-between places.
Yes.
So do you think it's because she's like in between?
The liminality, that could definitely be part of it. I think there's also just a lot of value placed on children, sort of in the Christian tradition.
True.
And I think a big part of that is coming in as well.
Maybe, yeah.
Because like, especially young children have like a ridiculously high honor price.
Do they?
Yeah. I don't remember what it is off the top of my head.
Yeah.
But like up to the age of 7 or something, they have like an obscenely high honor price.
Do you know what? Fair enough.
So there's definitely a lot of value placed on children, and I think that's a big part of it too. But the liminality is an interesting aspect.
Yeah.
I mean, my whole paper at the conference in Aberystwyth was about this connection between pregnancy and infants and this
prophetic truth kind of.
Yeah, poetic inspiration or sort of divinatory knowledge, which is very closely related to this concept of truth in general. So maybe there's also this sense that a woman who is pregnant, there's a supernatural element of truth and rightness to what she is speaking and saying, especially right on the cusp of giving birth.
That's cool.
Yeah. I just now thought of that. I don't know if I could back it up or not, but I may well be able to.
Fuck it, footnote it.
Yeah.
Footnote it, babe.
Yeah. Oh, I do love a good footnote. It's just like, this is a stray thought I have that might be worth pursuing, but I'm not going to pursue it.
I'm thinking about this in 206.
Yeah.
I'm going to chalk that down.
Another example of legal capacity of women is that they can give items of their own personal property as pledges, which is kind of like collateral for legal agreements.
Oh, yeah. There was protected things that were specifically for women, wasn't there?
Yeah, I'm sure there were. I don't know what they are.
It was movable objects.
Yeah, certain movable property. Things like...
It was like needlework.
Yeah, so movable property would be like objects that you can pick up and carry with you. So things relating to needlework, to go back to the list from Cuchullin's
chastity belts.
So needles, which would usually be made out of bone at this point in time. You're talking about things like, your spindle. I don't know. I'm going with only sewing equipment, textiles, kitchen stuff. Even like, this is not easily movable, but it's technically movable property. Things like a kern, which you're using to grind, your grains to make flour. That sort of stuff is movable property. So that's what we're talking about for listeners. So that's the kinds of things that if that is a woman's property, and it tends to be movable property that women inherit as well. Yeah. So this is something that a woman may truly own, even though she's dependent on a superior.
Sorry, this is all just like screaming in the back of my head. Yeah. If you break a woman's needlework shit, you have to pay how much that would have cost and double and a half, I think.
Oh, I absolutely believe that.
Like the needlework was like really protected.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense because, I mean, a lot of the stuff obviously isn't mass produced at this time. Yeah. So there's the effort of going and reobtaining it for one thing. I'm sure there were also like, this is my favorite needle sort of things coming up, right? Because I mean, every needle's going to be a little different. They're all made from different bones. It's not like you can perfectly replicate the same thing. Yeah. So you're going to pick up, your favorite sewing equipment, your favorite spindle, whatever. So
and if you fucking sit on it, I'll fucking kill you, man.
Yeah. You broke my favorite drop spindle. Now
what the fuck?
That's so messed up, man. So that could be part of what's being accounted for there as well. But of course, it's also the productivity of having that item on hand. And the duration of not having that means you're not spinning or you're not sewing, which means you're not producing things that you can need, sell. That you can either sell or you can use yourself.
I'm also going to derail this again. I can't remember the name of it, but I remember there's a certain type of textile specifically made by women in Norse cultures, but was brought into Ireland post invasion in like the 800-900s, and it was used
post Viking invasion.
Yeah, post Viking invasion. Sorry, and it was used like as currency, but it was because it was really hard to make.
Interesting.
And it was also incredibly warm. I think incredibly warm. I could be wrong.
Yeah.
But,
no, I mean, I believe that coming from the Norsemen.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But, sorry, I just thought I'd throw that in there. But just how important textile making actually really was.
Yeah.
At the time. Like,
it's also a great example of sort of the non-currency system. So as far as legal capacity, that's really about it. I mean, we're going to talk about marriage and divorce specifically in a minute.
Marriage.
But there are also, yes. Don't get me started on that.
I'm so sorry.
No, that's a beautiful reference.
I'm so sorry.
And listeners will know, or if they don't, they have no taste. I'm being so mean to the listeners today. Sorry, guys, we love you.
Why we are gathered here today?
I'll be nicer to you guys when you start like sending us emails or like commenting on posts on social media and whatnot, because it's a quiet place right now. Or give us 5-star reviews and comment on your favorite podcasting
God,
platform.
you're a whore, Tyler. You're a fucking whore.
Slap my ass and call me a couple.
Leave them alone, bye. Slap my ass and call me a couple. Fantastic. Absolutely.
That all said, there are some exceptional cases of women with more legal capacity, potentially. So, trying to get this back on the rails.
Sorry.
Not at all. So there's no evidence of women political or military leaders in the annals, but there is a law text, Bretha Crolica, which mentions the following as important to the Tuath. 1, the woman who turns back the streams of war. And 2, the hostage ruler. Translation tentative. What are these people? Who are these women? We don't really know.
What do you mean?
That's basically all that we have.
What do you mean? God, you do have to love the vagueness of it all.
Yeah, I think the theories that I like best are woman who turns back the stream of war, perhaps a woman who is acting in some sort of diplomatic capacity.
Yeah, that's a negotiation or a marriage.
Yeah.
But political marriages didn't really come into Ireland until after the 9th or 10th century, I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, this law text may be late enough.
It
could be involving that. I'm not quite sure how old this particular law text is. I'd have to look it up.
But, Yeah, but that's still stopping a war.
Yeah, that's my best guess. It could also be like a powerful nun or something.
Oh, yes.
That's using her
abbess
kind of religious authority.
Yeah, the abbess of Kildare.
Yeah, would be a very particularly powerful woman. Or St. Bridget herself.
St. Bridget herself.
And then the hostage ruler would very likely be someone who had a role in taking care of hostages or captives. We'll talk a little bit about captives in our next episode, but might have a role in sort of their care. You could be a hostage or a captive for various reasons. Hostages were oftentimes living collateral, essentially, for certain legal situations, where captives were people who might be punished by being taken as captives because they couldn't pay a fine or something like that.
Yeah. For hostages, think if anyone's watched Game of Thrones, Theon Greyjoy in the Starks.
Oh, yes. Yes. Yeah, that's a very good example. So, I mean, you see this in medieval situations outside of Ireland as well, where there's these hostage exchanges. They might not be called hostage taking, but it's what they are.
But, it's what you are.
Yeah.
It's okay.
And so we get situations like that. So perhaps this is a woman who had some sort of responsibility related to that. Other women of unusual rank, well, we just kind of implied this, but nuns have a particularly prominent rank, as well as the rare but apparently real situation of the poetess, the woman poet, which we talked about last episode.
Also, I know we are going to get to Fosterage, but I just think this is a really interesting point that most women or most girls would actually be sent to monasteries or nunneries for their fosterage.
Yes.
Which meant that more women than men were literate out of the lay people.
Right. Interesting. Oh, that was something that I hadn't come to my attention.
I think it was only in 1200s is when lay men started like learning literacy like in earnest.
Interesting.
And it was mostly women.
Interesting.
Yeah. Because you don't really hear about men's prayer books.
Yeah.
Like being found or like being in museums. But like you've Anne Boleyn's prayer book. You've a load of different... Yeah, sorry. Especially
one has to wonder how many of our manuscripts might have actually had some women behind them.
I know. It's fascinating, isn't it? It's really...
Pretty much like... all the names that we have, and it's rare enough that we get a name on a manuscript.
Very rare in Ireland.
Our men's names, but that's, again, a hostage of fortune.
Yeah.
So
we do love an anonymous writer.
Yeah. I'll say maybe this one was a woman.
Yeah. You can always be like, well, if you look how twirly the D's are. Unfortunately, that doesn't really work.
My D's are twirly now.
Sure they are, Taylor. Sorry.
I don't know if that's a good thing, actually.
I don't know either. You know ducks have... Sorry. No.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, sorry.
Let's not talk about that. Or cats.
Cats? Oh, yeah, cats.
That's a different situation.
Okay. Enough dick talk. Let's get back to the women.
One thing I wanted to mention about poetesses, because I don't know if listeners could tell, but we got distracted a few times during the last episode. And... we had mentioned this person and then we didn't follow through on it. So I just want to amend that situation, that in the annals of Inishvalin for 934, we have a record of the repose of Ulach, daughter of Winnichan, poetess of Ireland. And Saoirse, you had that in your notes. I had that in my notes. We had mentioned this character, Ulach, and then... we never followed through on actually saying who she was or actually quoting the reference. So.
Poetess of Ireland, I guess. I don't know.
So there, listeners, is your historical reference that's actually based in Ireland in, a medieval manuscript, not on the continent in some old...
Also, Poetess of Ireland is a fucking huge title. Yeah. That's not, like, to be a poet is already a big thing, but poet of Ireland is like...
Yeah. I do wonder whether it's intended as being like, this is the poetess of Ireland, or if it's just a poetess of Ireland, as in one of the women poets from Ireland. Is just
or
from
she's
Ireland.
The only poetess.
I don't know. I don't actually have the original Irish in front of me, so... I mean, I guess I'm sure it's just in the genitive case, which doesn't help. But I don't know which interpretation is wanted there. But we'll pretend it's the big grand sounding one.
Yeah, woo! Why big not? One, yeah.
There also does seem to be a strong possibility of other professions that are highly skilled being passed down when the profession is generally hereditary. Mm-hmm. So, like we were saying in the Poets episode... even though technically it was possible to become a Filla without having been born into a family of Fillith, it was much more likely that you're going to be a Filla if your father was a Filla, if your grandfather was a Filla, because that's how you learn, is you learn from within your king group. And it's, of course, profitable for your king group to have a whole bunch of high-ranking Fillith in your family. So, similarly... the situation there was that poetesses seem to have likely occurred in order to maintain that profession within the king group when there was no son who could take over the profession, essentially. And similarly to that, that may have well happened with professions like physicians, professions like carpenters or wrights. They may have occasionally passed to a woman in order to maintain that in a particular king group. Women could be landowners. There's literature that suggests that there were banvrugas. We talked about this. We mentioned one at the top of the episode, Medhiv of the Uliv. These would be very, very wealthy members of the farming class, but we're saying that there were women who were in this situation. They may all be legendary. There's an example, I think, also in the story of one of the stories of Cormac MacArt, where he makes a judgment about the sheep of a Banvruga who eat the plants of the queen of Tara, I guess.
Oh my God, was she cop on?
Yeah. And sorry. Basically,
sorry. Oh my God.
The story is really interesting. I think I may have actually told this story back in our episodes about the kingship of Tara. Interview with the deity episode, I think.
Do you want me to look it up?
It's fine.
Okay.
Listeners will figure it out. Or listeners who have been listening in order like you're supposed to, listeners, they'll have already heard it. They know what I'm talking about. Just to remind you very briefly, it's the story where Cormac isn't king yet. The king declares that this poor Banvruga, this poor super rich lady, her sheep are forfeit to the queen because they ate the queen's woad plants. But then Cormac comes in and he's like, actually, that's not a good judgment. The plants will grow back. Sheep's wool grows back. So just give the queen the wool of the sheep.
Yeah.
And this...
Oh, yeah, that makes way more sense.
It does make way more sense. And then everyone's like, Cormac should be king now.
Cormac! Woo! Cormac!
Yeah. So there's another example of a Banvruga in the literature. But again, it's very much in the literature, not necessarily in
real
historical record.
Yeah. It would be fantastic.
Yeah.
If there was case law.
Yes.
I think you definitely have talked about this before, but all of our laws are just, this will happen, and this will happen. And it's like, but did it happen?
Yes. Can we please get records of the actual cases? Thank you.
Yeah, I'll take it. I'd love a name.
Yeah. I think our closest thing we have to case law is legendary stories, which doesn't help.
No, it doesn't.
More realistic, however, there is the law of female inheritance, but there is a bit of a mixed message from one law text to another, so the overall picture is hard to generalize, and so this is kind of doing my best, or really borrowing off of Fergus Kelly doing his best.
Thank you, Fergus Kelly, for all your hard work.
Thank you, Fergus Kelly. So normally, daughters only inherit movable property, as we were saying a little earlier. So for example, again, cooking and sewing utensils, a kneading trough, clothing, and so on. But if she has no brothers, a woman can inherit up to 14 covels in land value. Mm-hmm. And in this situation, she is known as a Ban Coverva, a female heir. And in these instances, she gains some rights of management to make purchases, sales, and essential contracts. So we mentioned that a little earlier when we talked about the law of female entry. But if she gets married, normally this right shifts to her husband. The exception would be if she marries a landless man or an alien to the Tuath. Mm-hmm. Because in that situation, she is still the highest authority in the union, and therefore she retains the legal capacity. So this would actually be one potential motivation to marry from outside your Tuath, is if you are a woman in a particularly and unusual privileged position of having your own property, having your own land, and you want to keep it that way. But also, you would like to do some writing.
Yeah. Does it not then forfeit to male cousins after her generation?
Yes. I am coming to that.
Yes.
So, her land reverts to her kin group upon her death.
Yeah.
Now, there is, again, a very niche case exception to this.
If you marry your fucking cousin.
Well, that actually may well do it. But if her husband is an alien to the Tuath, she is allowed to bequeath up to 7 covels of land value to her son, which is enough land to give her son the qualification of an ogre or a small farmer.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a nice... It makes sense in that since she is the authority in that relationship, her son's status is based on her status until he becomes an independent man.
Okay.
And once he's an independent man, he's going to have nothing to his name if his mom had no land to pass on to him because his dad is not allowed to pass land on to him.
Oh, okay, I gotcha.
Right? So this is kind of a safeguard that gives him enough to work with, that he's going to have a fairly decent standing in society.
Yeah, that he's not completely fucked.
Yeah. So that's one situation.
I wonder how they would...
That's an exception.
I wonder how they would do it if it was only girls. Like, if you had more than one child.
Yeah.
Like, if you'd 4 girls.
Yeah. That's a... Yeah.
How would they sort that out?
Yeah. I think you're just kind of... I think you're hoping that all your daughters get married off so you don't have to deal with that.
Yeah.
Because I think technically they're just out of luck.
They're just fucked, babe. You are fucked, let me tell you.
Get married.
Fucking Pride and Prejudice a couple centuries before.
Yeah,
Jesus.
pretty much. Oh my god, now I want a basically Pride and Prejudice, but set in early medieval Ireland. Sounds hilarious.
I would love if they did like an adaptation. Have you ever watched Britannia?
No.
Oh my god, Tyler, it's actually it's about the Roman invasion of Britain. It is actually very interesting. It's not the most accurate, but but it's still extremely entertaining. And there are some bits they bring in about like legal stuff.
Oh,
which I'm like,
yeah,
I know that.
Yeah.
I would love if they did a Tombo Cunha.
Oh yes.
Of that, and they always have like rock music over it instead of like, you know, your typical It's like boom, but it's really cool. Yeah.
It just makes me think of A Knight's Tale.
Yeah.
Good movie. Now we're getting to the really fun stuff. The 9 types of union or marriage.
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 Come to celebrate today. Sorry. I'm so sorry.
Oh, it's so good.
I have 2 weddings in the next 2 weeks.
Oh, so gosh, that's a lot.
Yeah. Marriage.
If I ever get married, I think I just need to make that happen.
Oh my god, how fantastic. So I'll do it. Can I do it?
Oh, yes, you're hired.
Just immediately just going up, marriage.
Yeah. You have to dress like the guy, though.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Are you kidding? I'll get a fake beard and everything.
Yeah. I mean, you could probably just take your hair and kind of like paste it to your... Because it was just like sideburns, right? Like really fluffy sideburns, I think.
Oh,
that's the image I have in my head. I can't remember.
I can't remember, to be honest. I haven't watched in years.
Yeah, it's been too long.
I'm ashamed. I'm so ashamed.
It's fine. So the reason that we're saying union instead of marriage, I think will become clear as we get further down the list.
Yes.
But also just now I can't even think of what the actual word used for union is.
Winter? No,
I don't think that's it. Well, it doesn't matter. But the word kind of translates better as union anyways.
Yeah, I think our modern perception of marriage is too kind of final.
Yes.
For what was actually going on.
This I think was a little bit more fluid. And it's more, as we'll see, a lot of what's going on in the law of union has to do with concern for who is entitled to what, and particularly who has responsibility for the kids.
Yes.
There are a few broad bands that we can talk about. The most formal, most socially acceptable type of union can be broken into 3 categories. So this is the first 3 of the 9. There's the union of joint property, the union of woman on man's contribution, and the union of man on woman's contribution. The union of joint property pretty much is what it sounds like. This is where both the groom and the bride, the husband and the wife, bring the same amount of wealth, approximately, into their union.
Yeah.
And so that has certain implications, but the next 2 basically are what they sound like.
And it's also approved on both parties' kin.
Yes, this is important. This is going to be true for all 3 of these, and these are the reason they're kind of considered the most formal and most acceptable, is that these are kin-approved unions, or kin-approved marriages. They're not your shotgun wedding that you have in Vegas without inviting any of the family.
Yeah, these are kind of like your typical high medieval ideas of marriage, because it's all the kin know each other, the kin met each other, the kin are like, you two go off and fondle.
Yes. So then the union of woman on man's contribution, that just means that the man brings more wealth into the marriage. And the other way around can also happen where the woman brings more wealth into the marriage.
Do you know what's mental about that? The man's family has to provide all of the bride price then?
Yes, we're going to get into
we're going to get to that.
There's a more informal but still acceptable category because it is accepted by the kin that's known as a union of a man visiting, which is more like, I guess, having a steady boyfriend who comes to your house sometimes and maybe stays over for the night.
Oh, you see, I was thinking of it more like in Fianna terms of like, I got a woman up in Carlow, I got a lady down in Kildare.
I mean, that may well count as long as it's kin approved.
Yeah, as long as it's kin approved.
Yeah.
Bit of mono. It's just the Mambo number 5. Around
the which is again part of the reason we're saying that union is a better term than marriage.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah. It's like having a steady partner who you're not necessarily cohabitating with, but one who your parents are perfectly happy with. Oh yeah, he's
fine.
Really nice. Yeah. Well, we're happy enough with him.
Yeah.
Then we get into all the not approved by the kin options, which the best of them are considered improper but legally recognized, and the worst are considered heinous.
Yeah.
So let's start with the improper but legally recognized group. We've done 4 so far. We did the 3 formal types, which are all based on who contributes how much. There's the union of a man visiting was number 4, and then numbers 5 through 7 are the union that is accepted at the instigation of a man, which is where a woman essentially decides, yeah, I'm going to go be with this fella. And the woman openly goes and announces this, but her kin doesn't approve of it. We then have the union by abduction, which is not probably the best way to phrase it, but I'm using Fergus Kelly's decisions. I'm sure he has a good reason for it.
It's more that she was just like, they were like, no. And she was like, okay, I won't go. And then she went anyway.
Yeah, she's taken willingly, but this is not necessarily announced openly like the previous one. And then there is a union of secrecy. This is your secret boyfriend.
Oh, Romeo. Oh, Romeo.
Yes, so this one is not kin approved, but partly because they just don't know what's happening.
Yeah.
Finally, the 2 heinous, so number 8 and 9, the last 2 types of union are union by sexual assault, really.
Yeah.
And union of mockery, which would be a union between 2 people who are cognitively impaired.
Yeah. Or a union with just one person cognitively impaired.
Yeah, that the other person is taking advantage of.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So this is kind of nice because they're automatically null.
Yes.
They're kind of voided.
Yes. They're listed because of the implications for any children that come about as a result of this, as well as legal fines that are due for setting this up in the first place. Especially in the case of the union of mockery. There are legal repercussions for anyone who instigates that, who is not cognitively impaired.
Yeah.
So, there's a few issues we'll have to parse. We'll come to bride price in a minute, but I want to read this extract from an article by Donncha O'Coran called Women and the Law in Early Ireland, which originally appeared in the very short and snappy title, Chattel, Servant, or Citizen, Women's Status in Church, State, and Society, edited by Mary O'Dowd and being Witchert in Historical Studies 19 in Belfast in 1995. We're looking at pages 45 through 57.
That's catchy.
Yeah. There's your reference for you. But I'm giving the full reference because I am going to take a fair chunk of this. So I'm going to start with some quotes that are translated from some of the law texts. Union of a man on a woman's contribution. In that case, the husband goes in the track of the wife, and wife in the track of the husband. If he is a man of service, he receives, on the occasion of a divorce, 1/9 of the corn, and of the salt meat if he is a head of council who controls the people of the household with advice of equal standing to that of his wife. But he is a husband who is paid honor price in accordance with his wife's status if she holds all the property, unless he is more godly, more highborn, or more estimable. I've never had to say that word in my life.
Estimable.
Estimable than she.
What the fuck does that mean?
Of higher esteem.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Right.
I've read that word plenty of times and it sounds fine in my head, but it's really awkward to say.
Yeah, that sounds like a bit of a doozy.
I'm going to pause here and I'll continue the extract in a minute. What this is essentially saying is that there are two subcategories of a man on woman's contribution union. In one case, the man still has certain legal
autonomy
and advantages in the case of a divorce, where he still gets some stuff. But in the case where, and this would probably mainly apply to aliens to the Tuath, where he is landless and is basically bringing nothing to the union himself, then she maintains basically everything.
Yeah.
And she is really truly the authority. So this is just clarifying that. So we already really talked about that, but this is kind of showing that it's split into even further categories beyond the 9 in some cases. Also, this seems to have been something there was some anxiety around, where the woman's bringing more stuff. Can't imagine why in this patriarchal society.
Don't know why. I don't know why they're so freaked out about fucking knit needles by it. Like, calm down.
Continuing to another extract. In the case of all kinds of men in Irish law, except for 3 alone, their wives have half their honour price. A man without land, without property, who is married to an heiress. So a man without property who is married to an heiress, and in other words, married to a woman who has her own land, he is paid honour price according to the honour price of his wife. A man who follows his wife's arse over a border.
Oh, yeah.
So in other words, an alien. Yeah, I just love the phrasing here. So the Irish is Therinated Táin Omna Tarcrich. So Táin is
but.
Yes.
Sure, you can't go wrong with a bit of arse. Go on.
He is paid honour price according to the honour price of his wife. And a foreigner, he is paid honour price according to the honour price of his wife. She pays for his offences if she is contracted in marriage or recognized by her family. These 3 women are capable of impugning the contracts of their husbands, so that these latter are not competent to sell or buy without their wives. But they can do only what their wives authorize.
It's really funny how there is like a 360 in between, like, or idea of patriarchal marriage, where it's like she just, shuts up and he does everything.
Yeah.
And then the second she has a cow, it's like, oh fuck, well, sorry mister, you better chop your balls off now, because they're gonna shrivel off anyway.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of love it, really.
It's just such an odd 360. Like, there always has to be someone in power. I don't know, just interesting.
Yeah. So this is the scholars just adding some context. So this is the whole point of the spirited dialogue in the Táin Bó Cúailnge. King Ailill is a Lackland and an outlander. Lackland as in lax land. And an outlander. And his spouse, Queen Medivh, is heiress queen of Connacht and daughter of the High King of Ireland, and thus his superior by birth. And then he quotes from the Táin, this is Medivh speaking to Ailill, I gave you a contract and a bride price as befits a woman, namely the raiment of 12 men, a chariot worth thrice 7 kuvla, and the breadth of your face in red gold, the weight of your left arm in white bronze. Whoever brings shame and annoyance and confusion on you, you have no claim for compensation or for honor price for it, except what claim I have, said Medivh. For you are a man dependent on a woman's marriage portion. Medivh is really spitting fire here because, as we're going to talk about, a bride price, unlike the dowry that's traditional across most of Europe, is something that is normally paid by the man to the woman.
Yeah.
Here Medivh saying, I gave you a bride price, Ailill, and is very much emasculating him. And she even more so by really laying into him with, and it was this hella awesome bride price.
You're fucking welcome.
Yeah.
Fucking lapdog.
There's also that the phrase of from a little bit earlier on of the Táin the arse of the woman being followed. That also is a phrase that shows up in the Táin and is angled at Fergus for following Medivh's ass.
Oh my god.
And he's really taken down a peg, I think by Cuchullin actually, for capitulating to Medivh and following a woman, and specifically following the ass of a woman.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, he was. Like,
yeah, I mean, to be fair.
Can I derail for a second?
Yeah.
I just fucking hate Maeve.
Uh-huh.
Like, and I hate more than anything else in this world. Because we actually kind of have, like, feminist icons.
Yeah.
In early medieval literature.
Yes.
We have loads of women take back their autonomy. Like, you've Chulainn, who avenges her family. You've Grania, who doesn't want to marry Finn, so she's like, fuck this and marry someone else.
Yeah.
You have, you know, the Gaelic bearer, Bui, and she's like, yeah, fuck it.
Yeah.
Medivh is not one of them.
No, Medivh makes women look real bad.
She makes women look awful. And she's also going around to loads of warriors. She's like, you can rape my daughter if you fight for me. Like this.
When she's not offering herself.
Yeah, when she's not offering herself. But she's just kind of horny. She's just throwing her daughter to the dogs all the time. So if I hear one more person call Queen Medivh a feminist icon, the fan art is very cool. But if I hear one more feminist icon, Medivh, I will strangle myself. No. Sorry, rant over.
Maybe pick one of the other Medivhs that are out there.
Yeah, there's cool Macha.
Yeah.
Look at Macha.
I think, again, in the Sovereignty Goddess episode, Interview with the Deity, I also mentioned Medivh Lethderrig, who was like a queen of Tara, I believe, and who was like had all sorts of husbands because she was basically the sovereignty of Tara. Yeah. So she seemed pretty cool too. So this idea of the bride price that Medivh is referring to, this is a really key aspect of, particularly of formalizing a union. So those more formal types of unions that we started with, you wouldn't necessarily have a bride price in the lower types of unions. This is given by a man to his intended bride's father, or head of kin if her father is not around. And a portion of that, usually a third, I believe, is given to the bride herself. And that's actually her legal property. Yeah. Should the marriage dissolve by the fault of the husband, the wife retains her portion of the bride price as well. So it's sort of compensation for, sorry for having had to go through that.
Yeah, sorry about that, love.
Yeah. There's not much known about what was given by the bride or the bride's kin to the man or the man's
if there
kin,
was dowry.
If there was anything, and there's doesn't seem to be a term for dowry in Old Irish.
Yeah.
But there are, of course, these cases where the bride contributes property to some of the more formal unions. Yeah. So maybe that was considered in a way something
it
like
could
that.
be. I suppose it's more like it. Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't read that way to me.
You see, I do think that there just isn't really a dowry form. There might be like a kin group of a woman saying like, here, take this lodging that we have as a way for the pair of you to get like set up. Yeah. Before you inherit, like, obviously this is for more like higher aristocracy, but I really don't think that because there isn't a word for dowry.
Right. Exactly.
Like, we have words for everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a whole book how there's 32 words for a field.
Yes.
You know? Like,
yes. And as we say next episode, because I can see the future because of how we recorded these.
Because we haven't recorded it yet.
There's all sorts of words for parts of it, like little tiny parts of a chariot, when chariots may not have even existed. Yeah. So it's weird that there's no word for dowry if there were actually dowries, especially because, I mean, the laws that we have about union are
pretty substantial.
Thorough. Yeah. So it probably just wasn't a thing. One other thing to mention here is that the more formal brands of union generally should be between people of an equal class. Yes. That was really important because if you had a union between people of unequal classes, the financial burden of any legal issues would tend to fall on the lower class partner, who would be less capable of providing financial compensation or whatever it had to be for that particular legal proceeding. And actually the lower class partner, as sort of a way to make up for their class distinction was expected to contribute more to a union than if they're of equal standing.
Yeah.
So, for example, if, say, a man's like, yeah, I'll marry this woman who's one rank lower than me because she's real hot and we like each other, her family would be expected to contribute 2/3 of the cattle to this union, and it would still be considered a union of joint property, say.
Yeah, okay.
Like, they'd be considered equal because it's sort of evening things out by bringing in more wealth in order to compensate for being a lower class one.
Okay, it's not too bad.
But, if you're having to contribute 2/3 of the cattle, that's a pretty big ask.
That's still a lot of cattle.
Yeah. So there's kind of a double blow of both what you're bringing to the union in the first place has to be more if you're lower class, and also the dealing with any legal issues is going to be worse for you if you're in a lower position. So that's a couple of reasons why you'd want to try to be of equal class in most cases. Now, an issue that we have to address. Fergus Kelly, wonderful, amazing scholar. We would not be where we are in terms of the study of medieval Ireland and medieval Irish law without his very accessible books on early Irish law, in particular the Guide to Early Irish Law and his Early Irish Farming, and soon heptads.
And soon the heptads.
Which that may be a shout out to the future, actually.
Oh yeah.
It's fine. Something to look forward to next episode. But something that Fergus Kelly, I think, gets wrong in A Guide to Early Irish Law, which, to be fair, was written in like 1977, I think.
I want my name taken off this podcast.
Is that there's a description in there of something that is still commonly put around until really quite recently, I was under a misconception of early Irish law and society allowing for polygamy, where a man has multiple partners.
You were talking about this.
Yes. We'll talk about how it is laid out in general, and you still see this in like academic papers and things too. And then we'll talk about why this is an issue after. But let's go ahead and pretend that this evidence is what it looks like on its face. There are a couple of terms that refer to one's partner in a union. One is Caedwinter, or Caedwinter. Caedwinter, yeah.
Caedwinter, yeah.
Yeah. One is Caedwinter, which literally translates as first wife, often translated as chief wife, which implies that there might be more wives. Hence this idea of polygamy, and that is further reinforced by another term, adultrach, which comes from the Latin adultrix, which, if you can't guess from the English, adultress. So it means something more like concubine or mistress.
Yeah.
There's actually laws about the adultrach as well, which further reinforces this idea that, well, if there are laws for this, then surely polygamy must have been a thing. Because the adultrach gets to choose, actually, who her daddy is, to refer back to the episode title. She can be ruled by her son, or her husband, or her kin. Up to her. I mean, I guess if she doesn't have some of those things, like if she doesn't have a son, then she has to choose between the other two. It's probably kin could refer to her father if her father's around, or whoever her male superior in her kin group would be otherwise. Also, the laws say that for an adultrach, she has half the status and half the entitlements of the Caedwinter. So far, so good. Seems to definitely imply there is precedent for, there's setup for having an additional partner for the husband. The Caedwinter also has certain superior rights to the adultrach. So we're told that, quote, every secondary wife who comes over the head of a Caedwinter is liable to pay the honor price of the Caedwinter. We have directly in this particular extract, which I'm quoting again out of Fergus Kelly's Guide to Early Irish Law, that there are situations where we're talking about the interaction between a secondary wife and a first wife, and that the secondary wife has to pay the Caedwinter's honor price if she basically does something above her station that is supposed to be the responsibility of the Caedwinter. The Caedwinter is also entitled to inflict injury on a second wife, probably for a limited time, to like get out her frustration that her husband has brought home another woman.
I think it's like the first 2 weeks.
Yeah, something like that. But there's also limitations to it. Like it's things like, well, actually, it's the second wife, the Ultonian, can, I think, fight back, but only to like very limited like hair pulling and things that aren't going to leave a mark. Yeah. Where the Kid Winter can kind of go all out.
Is this the one where it's like a stick as thick as your thumb and as long as your forearm, or is that something else?
I think something like that, yeah. Where like there's certain implements they can use to hit the other person, but if it's too big or too gnarly, then they can't do it. Yes, that's I'm pretty sure that's exactly it. In these situations, it's notable that there would be rights to inheritance for the sons of both unions. Mm-hmm. Okay, so far so good. That all sounds like got it settled. Lots of setup for polygamy. Except, as Liam Brannock, among other scholars, has pointed out, the word Céad Winter actually just means spouse, or more literally chief member of a household, not chief wife. And it is oftentimes used to refer to a husband, not just a wife. And this causes a lot of the evidence to start falling down on itself, where it sounds a lot more like the Ultonian is truly a mistress who is not actually being recognized as or sort accepted. Of a formal spouse. Yeah. Where the Céad Winter is a formal spouse. And that's the difference. And so there are laws that are allowing for having a mistress, but it's not really in the sense of a marriage.
It's not they're one of the households. Yeah. They're welcome in.
And it's not necessarily that they're saying that it's fine to have a mistress. It's more that here's the laws dealing with it when it happens, because it does happen.
Here's how much your wife can beat the fuck.
Yes.
Out of.
Where this misconception seems to have come from, as identified by Brannock, is a very popular 1901 mistranslation. So that revival era stuff.
Fucking revival.
Puts a wrench in so many things. But Brannock does allow for certain exceptional situations. So here's what he says in Eru 66, page 11 through 12. So this is actually translated directly out of a law text. So, the Céad Winter on top of another. A woman who has been affected by an impediment with regard to the rightful state of marriage, and what is required for the period of medical treatment for her is the major period of medical treatment of the 3 years and the 3 months. And if she recovers, they are to be together. And if she does not recover, if he has anyone whom he can send her back to, let him do so. And if not, let him take care of her until death, and he takes another wife, and that is the spouse on top of another. In other words, with the awkward syntax there, what this is saying is it's saying this is a very specific type of Céad Winter. It is a Céad Winter on top of another Céad Winter. It is a wife on top of another wife. How can you have this happen? You can have this happen if your wife is sick for 3 years and 3 months and she's still not better, and you can't send her back to anyone else, so you have to keep her and maintain her. In that case, it's okay to take a second wife.
Yeah. And that's it.
That's it.
That's it.
That's it.
No other reason.
Yeah. My sense then is that those situations for the Ultonian are truly not really. She's not a wife.
Yeah, she's not a wife.
She's the one on the side.
Dirty sleaze bag. Dirty fucking sleaze bag. Yeah. Tearing up the tooth again. Are you? It's hot. You old trollop. You Jezebel. Oh, also,
that
just
over there.
I probably have to leave at problem. 5.
Okay. Yes, we're very close to the children's section, so let's wrap this up.
Wrap this fucking.
And I can record the children bit myself.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. No worries at all. We've been recording for a while. You guys are getting some hefty episodes coming up.
You have big, heavy. I also keep forgetting that we're recording. I keep thinking we're just yapping. Sorry.
That's how you know it's good. That settles more or less this whole polygamy issue. It's not that straightforward, and it was mostly very much an edge case. Let's last talk about divorce. Divorce is really interesting in that it was allowed in a Christian society in medieval Ireland.
Yeah, that wrecked my head when I first learned of it. I was like, what?
Yeah, divorce is just not generally allowed. Annulment, sure. Divorce No, it just doesn't happen.
They're not okay with it.
Not in medieval Europe. No, they aren't. Not in medieval Christendom.
No, that's why Henry VIII had a freak attack.
So this is one place where I would say the early Irish laws are more progressive than a lot of places outside of Ireland. But there are only certain reasons that can happen. Some of them maybe are better than others.
Okay.
How can a wife divorce her husband? On what grounds? If he takes another wife. Option 1. If he slanders her. Option 2. If he discusses details of their marriage bed publicly.
Which I think is really polite, actually.
I do too.
I really like that. I was like,
don't talk about my sex life, dude. If he takes holy orders, fair enough.
Yeah.
If he tricks her into marriage by sorcery.
Yeah, that would do.
Yeah, sure. If he hits her so hard he leaves a blemish. Also very fair.
Also very fair.
If he is, at the time of marriage, or if he becomes impotent or sterile.
Oh.
Well.
I feel bad.
Yeah.
Sorry,
dude.
Totally fucking fair. Shouldn't fucking happen.
Yeah,
sorry, joking. I'm joking.
So those I think are mostly fair. A husband can divorce his wife if she is unfaithful.
Fair.
Okay. If she has an abortion.
Next.
If she commits infanticide.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah.
Fair.
This one.
Is it the breastfeeding one?
No.
Oh.
Well, maybe. If she has an incurable stone.
Oh.
Whatever that means.
She can't shit. Oh, what the fuck does that mean? An incurable stone?
I don't know. It could be like she has tumor. It could be
it could
she's
be
got
illness.
some sort of internal issue that feels like I don't know.
She just could be like ill-tempered.
The last one's my favorite. If she becomes a thief.
I love that one. But there is one if she can't breastfeed for 3 weeks.
Oh, yeah.
There's somewhere.
That one I'm missing on my list. That one's just not in Kelly's book, which is fine. You know.
I think it might be in marriage dispute.
Yeah. Like we said, there's a lot of material.
There's a lot. Kelly has
written
written so much.
Yeah.
That one actually always made me feel bad because women do just struggle with breastfeeding. And I was like,
yeah.
I think that's shit. There's a couple odd ones, but like no more bizarre than your average medieval source.
Right.
I feel like a lot of them are actually quite fair.
Yeah.
Especially for the women, actually.
Yeah, especially for
like
the
it's
women.
it's kind of hard to get divorced as a woman.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's really cool that they have so many outs.
Unless you like really fuck up, like you rob someone, fuck someone else, kill the child.
Yeah.
And then swallow a stone. You know,
now I want to write that fake old Irish story.
Yeah.
That sounds like something they would do.
Yeah. Here, I hear. Oh no, we haven't. No.
Yeah.
The leather guys stink though. So you're
I'm getting too many ideas from our conversations about like parodying early Irish literature for these various
for new D&D, new D&D games.
Oh yeah, there we go.
Oh, there we
do
go.
that too. Yeah. Okay, Saoirse, we'll go ahead and wrap up your part there, but you'll be back with us in our next episode.
Oh, yes,
already
I
recorded
will.
it. And maybe one time in Edinburgh we can do some remote ones even.
Yeah, that'd be sick. Thank you so much for having me on. I hope to be on again.
Yeah, it's been delightful. Gonna miss doing this in person.
Oh, stop. Oh, I'm gonna get really emotional.
Yeah.
Stop that, you naughty thing. You naughty thing.
On the plus side, you don't have to talk about stinky children.
Yeah. And they don't even have invas. Oh, you poor thing.
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much, guys. I will see you the next episode.
Welcome back to our Women and Children episode. You may hear 2 lovely cats eating in the background, so don't mind that. As we were saying, when Saoirse was still here with me and we were talking about the different types of unions, a lot of the reason for the laws being established about these types of unions actually had to do with the children that result from the unions and who's responsible for the children and things of that nature. As we were saying, women are dependents of a male superior, i.e. the daddy of Who's Your Daddy in the episode title. And same thing for children. So this is daddy in the sense of father and also foster father, as we will soon see. I want to, again, start us with a little story for this second part of the episode and look at a tale that Whitley Stokes called The Tidings of Conchobar. In Irish, it's frequently just known as Scale Conchobar, or the story of Conchobar Mac Nessa, Conchobar, son of Ness. The story is part of the Ulster Cycle tales. It describes how Conchobar, the King of Ulster throughout most of the Ulster Cycle, and in the Táin Bolcunga in particular, came to power, and also talks about his birth. The part of the story that is of interest to us begins with Fergus Mac Roch, the King of Ulster, who is a really important character as well in the Ulster Cycle tales. And at this point in the time, he's the King of Ulster, and he wishes to marry Conchobar's mother, Ness, or in other words, have a union with her. But he's looking for the more formal type of union that we discussed with Saoirse. Ness will agree to marry Fergus if Fergus first gives Conchobar, her son, who is age 7, a year in the kingship. Now, there's a few interesting things that are going on here. First thing is that Ness is not, well, obviously, this is not her first rodeo. She has a kid, and she indeed was previously married to another king. So she's used to being in the queenly position. I think at this point in time, her previous husband has passed, which is why Fergus is making his case to go into a new union with her. So she has this 7-year-old who she wants to have a year in Fergus's kingship. The Ulstermen urge Fergus to agree to this proposal, which is interesting that they're choosing to be ruled by a 7-year-old for a while, but sure, why not? Fergus can stay at the 7-year-old side the whole time and give him some guidance, I suppose. So they make this exchange. They make this deal. And while young 7-year-old Conchobar is in the kingship, Ness, his mother, urges him to lavish gifts upon the most influential Ulstermen in his court and across Ulster in general, across his kingdom. And so when Fergus comes to reclaim the kingship, the Ulstermen, quote, deemed it a great dishonor that Fergus had given them to Ness as a bride price, but they were thankful to Conchobar for his goodly gift to them. What Fergus sold, let it part from him. What Conchobar bought, let it stay with him. End quote. This is in Stokes's edition of the tale, The Tidings of Conchobar Mac Nessa, in Eru 4 from 1910, page 25. It's a really interesting section because they're basically reinterpreting what was originally kind of a gentleman's agreement, I suppose, maybe even a legally binding contract, really, because most of these contracts were verbal. They were not written down. But the Ulstermen are purposefully reinterpreting this exchange as Fergus making this agreement as Ness's bride price, which is kind of fair because Ness only agrees to the marriage under this condition. So you could kind of think of this as the bride price, even though the bride price would normally be material. In addition, the Ulstermen are saying that they feel really offended that they've been given as bride price. They're basically saying, we've been treated as property, essentially. We've been treated as your objects. We've been pawned off, and that doesn't feel very good. But they're saying this because they've been given all sorts of gifts by Conchobar. He's been lavishing them with all sorts of good stuff, and they just want to keep that going. And this is all Ness's plan. She's a very clever woman. I really like her character. She's disempowered partway through the tale, but then she gets it back here earlier in the before Conchobar's born part of the tale, which I didn't cover. She's really badass at the beginning, though, before that happens. I'll let you read the tale yourself if you're interested in it. I'll put a link in the podcast notes. Then it says, they were all thankful to Conchobar for his goodly gift to them. What Fergus sold, let it part from him. What Conchobar bought, let it stay with him. Now, this last part is really interesting. What Fergus sold, they're saying that Fergus didn't just hand over the kingship to Conchobar. They're saying he sold the kingship to Conchobar, which, again, fair enough in a sense, because this was an agreement. It was essentially a payment, though it was really supposed to be temporary. they're trying to use this term of selling to say it wasn't just temporary, it's something that they're trying to make more permanent. Once something is sold, it can't be gained back. And what Conchover bought, this is also interesting because, of course, Ness is the one who set this whole situation up. She is the mastermind behind this whole plan, but they are making Conchover the face of it because he's ostensibly the king, and of course, he is the male figure here. But he's also a 7-year-old, lest we forget. This is a very strange and unusual position to be putting the 7-year-old in. But as I mentioned in the previous part, in conversation with Saoirse, we also see that, well, children up to the age of 7 have a particularly high value attributed to them. So in kind of a strange roundabout way, this almost makes sense too. Now, let's go ahead and turn from this story back to what the legal tracts have to say about children. And we'll start following off from the idea of unions in the previous part by looking at who is responsible for rearing the children of a particular union. We can summarize this with a few bullet points, really. In general, children born to kin-approved unions are reared by both parents. And in general, the child is a dependent of his or her father while growing up. So the question then is, what about more problematic situations? What about those unions that are not kin-approved? What about those heinous unions we talked about? What about if the father isn't around or if the father's not the authority in the relationship? For unions that are forbidden by the woman's kin, it is the father who is alone responsible for raising the children. It's the reverse for unions forbidden by the man's kin. Then the mother is the lone person responsible for raising them, legally responsible. Of course, the other partner could choose to help out, but legally, this is the person who is responsible. If a child is born to a parent without status, but one of their other parents does have status, it's the parent with status who raises them. So this would account for situations like a children born to a relationship between a nevydd or a freeman and a slave, for instance. The higher ranking parent would be the one who has the responsibility of raising them, and the child's honor price would be calculated according to that person's status, not according to the status of the slave. It's only going to be the child of 2 slaves who is automatically going to be put into that lowest ranking setting. We'll talk more about slavery, and Saoirse in particular gets into slavery a lot in our next episode, which we've already recorded. Children born of rape, in this case, it is the rapist who is responsible to arrange the child's rearing. It's not to say that the rapist is given custody of the child and is entrusted with the child, but that they have the financial burden of making sure that the child is taken care of, which I think is another case where the laws are fairly based, and this makes sense. It should be the person who is responsible for the child in the first place coming into being to take on the burden of making sure that that child is brought up and taken care of. Finally, children born to the cognitively impaired. If there is one parent from that union who is not cognitively impaired, then that is the person responsible, or the person who has to arrange the child rearing and make sure that it's paid for. Or in the cases where it is that type of union that's set up by a third party between 2 cognitively impaired people, then the person responsible for setting up that situation in the first place is the one who kind of instigated it, is the person who has to arrange the rearing. Something that's really important to understand in terms of children and in terms of medieval Irish society in general is the idea of, or the institution of, fosterage, which is not remotely the same thing as the foster system that we think about in the modern period. Fosterage is in medieval Ireland a system that's intended to educate and to create strong bonds between different king groups. Those can be social bonds, they can be legal bonds, they can be political bonds that extend beyond the dervina, the kin group. That's the main sort of king group that the law texts deal with. The basics of this are that children, both boys and girls, are fostered to families usually of a lower status. The higher status family will therefore know that their children will be treated well because they have to be treated according to their parent status, and the child will become more worldly, they'll get to experience more stuff, while the lower status family gets to acquire advantageous connections to the family of the child that they're fostering. Usually, fosterage seems to have been from the age of 7 to about anywhere between 14 and 20, but perhaps for girls it seems more like 14 was the typical cutoff where your fosterage period ends, and 17 for boys. 17 is about the age where boys reach their majority and become independent men, if their particular profession allows it. Fosterage could be either for love, which is basically the advantages of the bonds between the two king groups involved are enough to be worth it, or fosterage could be done for a fee. So there's actually payment that scales based on the rank of the child who is being fostered. So, for example, an ogre, a small farmer, if he sends his son to be fostered, the typical fee would be 3 shades to the foster family. So an ogre's son, 3 shades, versus a king's son, it would be 30 shades for that son to be fostered. Okay, so it scales based on the status of the child when it is for a fee. And in general, the types of things that children are learning will be related to their particular class that they are going to become or going to be part of in adulthood. So for girls, frequently, regardless of their particular place in society, it's usually going to be things like needlework, spinning, cooking. You know, we've got the gist already from our part of this episode about women. For boys, it very much depends on their particular rank that they've been born into or expect to be moving into once they become independent. So if you're the son of a king, you're going to be learning kingly things like how to ride a horse. If you are the son of a farmer, you're going to be learning how to do farming stuff. If you are the son of a physician or a poet, you're going to learn things that have to do with that in your fosterage. And as Saoirse had mentioned in our previous bit, you might also be fostered or taken into care in this fosterage style system by the church rather than by a secular family. So that's another possibility that crops up. There's also adoption, which is, of course, different. This is more of a permanent thing, and this does exist in the early legal system. It was something that would be established by a contract with sureties. We won't get into that in detail here. I mean, adoption is kind of what you would expect based on our modern understanding. And then something about fosterage that I think is really interesting and worth pointing out is just how strong the bonds of fosterage seem to be, to the point where oftentimes bonds of fosterage are portrayed as being more powerful and more poignant than those of connections to your blood relatives. We see, for instance, evidence of this in the linguistics, in the terminology associated with foster parents. There are 2 words for foster father that we tend to see. One is ada, which can mean foster father, tutor, teacher. Another is dodon, meaning, again, foster father, with the similar dodnad for foster mother. And these are affectionate forms or diminutive forms of the more formal words for father. So in Latin, pater is the word for father, and pater is closely related etymologically to English father. The P becomes F, the T becomes TH, so it's both soften essentially, and that becomes the English word father. But we have ada for the Latin affectionate form, more like saying dad or daddy in English. Or papa, I suppose, might be a better comparison. And dodon, of course, sounds a lot like English dad. In Welsh, it's tad. And so we see this affectionate form, dad, not father, or papa, not father. Okay? And these affectionate forms that are applied to the foster father don't apply to the biological father. The biological father is aher, which is etymologically from the same root as father and Latin pater. Okay, it's the non-affectionate form. It's the formal form. For the mother, it's mama, which sounds a lot like mummy or mommy or mom even, as opposed to mother, which is mother for your, or mother, I suppose, in Old Irish, for your biological mother. We also see the association with education in that the word for foster child, dalta, acquires a secondary sense of pupil or disciple. We see tons of examples in the legendary literature of how strong the bonds of fosterage are. So just for one example, in Togelbrutha Doderga, or the destruction of Doderga's hostel, which is kind of a ancillary tale to the Ulster cycle, the good King Conor Mar is killed because he cannot bear to execute his foster brothers, who are, well, criminals. When he decrees that they should be permitted to live, he proclaims, "Let each father slay his son, but let my foster kindred be spared." In other words, he's saying that the killing of a foster sibling is worse than Fingal, one of the worst crimes imaginable to the early medieval Irish mind, the crime of kinslaying. That, I think, is a pretty good short example that shows just how strongly these ties are portrayed in the literature, and that suggests that there was probably some truth to them in terms of the actual institution itself, especially considering that this institution seems to have been quite robust, even though we don't have too much legal material that survives about it. So there are quite a few question marks in terms of some of the specifics. Another example from the Ulster cycle, which I'm going to keep going to because it's the cycle I know best. This is from the story of Compert Cuchullin, or the conception of Cuchullin, and really the birth of Cuchullin. And after Cuchullin is born and has grown up a little bit, the court of Ulster are trying to decide who is going to foster him. There's a lot of argument about this because he's such a miraculous boy that everybody wants to foster him. And so finally they get Morin, the legendary judge, to proclaim judgment as to who among all these different parties is going to foster Cuchullin. And Cuchullin gets the best of all worlds because Morin judges all of them. All of you guys who are vying for this have different things to contribute that will benefit this child in his fosterage. Essentially, that will benefit his education and his upbringing. And so specifically, Morin says the following: Cuchullin should be given to Conchover, for he is Finchlum's kin. Shennecha, the Filean judge, can teach him eloquence and oratory. Blee, the hospitaller, can provide for him. Fergus, the former king, can take him on his knee. Avergan, the olive, or chief poet, can be his teacher, with Conall Caranach, a warrior son of Avergan and Finchlum, as foster brother. The teat of a mother Finchlum can supply, and Finchlum is Cuchullin's mother's sister, so his aunt. In this manner he will be formed by all, chariot fighter, prince, and sage. He will be cherished by many, this boy, and he will settle your trials of honor and win your ford fights in all your battles. So that is from Kinsella's translation of the Táin, page 25. So that gives you a good idea of, I mean, of course, Chulainn, because he's super special, he gets all his special stuff. So he gets a multiplicity of foster parents, and he gets value out of all of them for his upbringing. So we're going to wrap up that episode there. And this sets us up well for our next episode, where we're going to look at other dependent classes as well as independent classes in Ireland, based more on profession and place in society, as well as Saoirse's specialty, which is the unfree and the non-people, as they're problematically described, the slaves and the serfs, essentially, of early medieval Ireland. So look forward to that. Thank you for listening to Fabula Celtica. Please rate and review our podcast and share it with friends. You can follow us on the site formerly known as Twitter, on Instagram, or on Blue Sky at Fabula Celtica, or you can email us at fabulaceltica@gmail.com. And they recovered the tale by speaking to the grave of Fergus Macroich, who is a central character of the Táin itself.
He's a tough guy.
Yeah.
He's a tough guy.
And it's also a very virile man.
Yeah. He's also a horny guy.
Yes. And apparently only he can satisfy certain women.
Oh, yeah.
There's that story. We're starting out really strong here, guys.
I'm gonna call my vibrator Fergus. Oh no, this is an academic.
It's fine. This is what the new age of academics are like.
I'm gonna draw a little smiley face on it just to make him feel.
Yeah. Oh dear.
Oh, Saoirse. Oh no.
Oh, Saoirse. And we'll get more into the aspects of being a woman in early medieval Ireland and how that's reflected in the story soon enough. But
boobs. Sorry. Oh my god. I'm sorry.
Something that persists through time.
Boobs. I'm so sorry.
It's, well, I'm glad you're here, Saoirse, because otherwise it would be me talking about women as women. I don't know why English is so hard for me today. I said the right plural and then I corrected it to the singular.
Boobs.
Boobs. Yeah, if it was just me going on about women and children when I am a man and do not have children.
And you're no longer a child.
Not that you have children.
I'm surprised. I actually have 14 kids. They're all called Sambuca.
Oh, very good. Very good. I don't want to meet them.
They'd be horrible.
I'm glad you're here because it gives me some buffer against the storm of criticism that may follow.
I feel like I'm nearly the worst person to have here because I have I don't know how to say it, the impulse control of a 12-year-old. So I just said boobs.
You're entertaining, and that's what the people want.
I don't know if I am. I'm just there going, I'm just sitting in your friend's beautiful living room going, boobs, 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 boobs. That's not...
Well, you entertain me, and that's what really matters.
Oh, okay, that's fine. I'll take that. Do you reckon I get a PhD?
Yeah. So, besides Macha's boobs,
I mean later. Oh no, it is earlier. I thought you meant the last episode or the next episode. I was like, oh shit, oh fuck.
We're if we get confused, it's our fault.
I've not a cigarette in 8 hours, guys. Please.
We'll get through this. Hang in there, Saoirse.
We can do this. Okay.
In the next episode, we're going to talk about a fella named Carbra Cathead.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know if you've come across this in modern Irish, but cathead in Irish is a word that can refer to an owl.
Yeah.
So I went down this rabbit hole of how early did that come about that this particular term refers to owls. And the earliest reference I could find was in a dictionary from the mid 1700s. So I think it was fairly
old enough,
recent.
though.
Yeah, but probably not
oh yeah, it's not
century this text.
Yeah,
is.
it's not like manuscript level.
Yeah, so I don't think it was really trying to say Carbra Owl Man.
Owl Man, yeah.
Yeah, so.
Are there owls in Ireland naturally? Yes, there are. Am I stupid? Jeez. Sorry.
Well, there's not that many now thanks to the biodiversity crisis, but you know.
Who. It's not whooping thing.
Yeah, so if Saoirse whoops, you know it's for something bad.
Yeah, unless it's not. Unless I'm secretly into it. Oh God, Saoirse. Anyway, keep going. Podcast. One, two.
Yeah. Okay,
Yapping
great.
away in the pub.
Super.
We're all in the pub. Everyone's drinking in the pub. Pub. I'm gonna piss in a pint glass in front of the pub. I'm a bartender.